Hey guys, Rodan here, bringing in another GTFO guide video. But before we get started on this, hit that like button. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. That way you catch the next one. So today's video, we're going to cover the melee weapons. Now, melee is a big part of GTFO. Melee is what you'll be doing 80% of the time whenever the shit's not hitting the fan. And there are 4 weapons. You have the knife, the hammer, the spear, and the bat. And each weapon has its pros and cons. And we're going to start off with the knife. The knife by far is one of the funnest weapons to use in this entire game. You can use it stealthily, where you can take out clusters of enemies without a single problem, or you can use it pretending you're John Wick running around the entire room, knifing everything in the head. It is a very versatile weapon, but it is a very precise weapon. So it does require a good degree of mastery that you need to kind of figure out as you use it, unfortunately. But it is not a bad weapon at all. The knife does extra damage to sleepers because of the stealth kill or the stealth multiplier. It can take out scouts if you hit it in the occiput, which is a little tricky to get. It is very fast, and it costs absolutely no stamina to stab with. By far, it is a super fun weapon, and it's definitely a not bad weapon to have with your team, because one of the best parts of the knife is that it has what's called a low noise feature. So it reduces the chance of enemies waking up from across the room whenever you kill one of their friends. And that is what makes it a pretty good group utility feature. Unfortunately, the bad part about the knife is that it's not as good when it comes to the bigger enemies. But that's okay, because there's 4 of you. So if you have 1 person with a knife and 3 people with a hammer, or 2 people with a hammer and 1 person with a spear, that is more than enough to take care of most big enemies without causing the entire rooms to wake up. Another thing you can't do with the knife, you are not able to kill charger scouts. So if you encounter those guys, let one of your friends with a hammer deal with them, or a friend with a spear deal with it as well, as that those are the only 2 weapons that can effectively kill a charger scout with the help of the syringe. Now let's talk a little bit more about what the knife can do. So if you have a melee syringe, which is the yellow ones that you encounter sometimes, you can kill a giant with it. You cannot kill a big shooter, and you cannot kill a big hybrid, but you can kill a giant with it if you hit it in the occiput. Now the occiput is a designated spot. It's kind of like at the bottom of the skull, like top of the neck. It's a very, very narrow, small area where you get both head multiplier and back multiplier added together, and it allows for massive amount of damage. So to summarize, you can kill smalls very effectively. You can kill bigs with the knife if you have a syringe and you hit the occiput, and you can kill chargers from behind, and you can also kill scouts, but only if you hit the occiput, so you have to hit them from behind. It has a low noise feature, so you have a reduced chance of waking up the room whenever you kill enemies in that room. And it is the only weapon in the game that can effectively kill entire clusters of enemies, and I'm talking about 4, 5, 6 at a time, even if they're huddled together. And if you would like to see an example of what that looks like, I do have a shorts video that I will add to the description with a link so you guys can actually see what that kind of looks like. It is extremely fun to do. It's very satisfying, and it is definitely a big assist for your team, especially in very crowded rooms or rooms that have like multiple scouts. Another thing to mention is the knife does take multiple hits to break open padlocks, and it does have a very, very small range. So a lot of the times that you try to go in to kill any enemies, you're pretty much in their face. So getting used to the range and positioning and the precision to hit them in the head is the key elements of understanding and being effective with the knife. If you hit enemies in the back, you won't kill them for the most part. You will essentially, you may have to hit them multiple times. And it's okay because the knife is so fast and the charge up time is so fast that it doesn't matter. Another important thing to keep track of is that when you hold the charge, the knife has the longest hold of any other melee weapon in the game. You can hold the charge for about 8 seconds before it forces you to let go, whereas other weapons it's like 3 seconds. And that makes it that actually comes in pretty useful sometimes, especially when you're waiting for enemies to go back to sleep and stop pulsing around you. It's not a super important thing, but it is just a good thing to keep track of in your mind, especially when coordinating groups like group takedowns with your teammates. So let's talk about the hammer. The hammer is probably the most go-to weapon in this entire game. It's a little bit of the best of both worlds. It's not entirely super fast, but it's not super slow either. It hits extremely hard. It gets the job done. It can kill bigs. It can kill smalls. It can kill scouts. It can kill chargers. It can kill charger scouts. Usually it kills most of these things in one hit, with the exception of the bigs. If you have the melee syringe, you can kill charger scouts with the back hit. You don't have to aim for the head. Usually the back hit works. If you have the melee syringe, you can kill bigs by hitting them in the head. Usually the giants will go down in one hit, with the big shooters and the hybrids taking maybe 1 or 2 hits. If you have, you can actually oxyput a hybrid with the melee syringe in the hammer. It's a little bit tricky to do, but if you hit the oxyput and you have the syringe, you will kill a hybrid in 1 hit. The hammer it is the most commonly used melee weapon in the entire game. One of the downfalls it does have is that because it's not super fast, it can't exactly kill clusters of enemies like the knife can. So whenever you have about 4 enemies huddled together, you can probably kill 1, you can kill 2, but then the other 2 are up and around. And it would be recommended to have a friend nearby to help you out, or they're going to wake up the room. Another thing you can always do is that if you ever didn't kill the enemy, that second enemy or the third enemy that you were working on, you can always just shove them nonstop and have a friend come over and help you kill them. It works. It's a good strategy, and it prevents the room from waking up, especially if you just shove them into like a wall or a corner where they can't really bother anybody else or move around. It does take 2 hits to break open locks with, no, I think it's one charge hit to break open a lock. And it does have a normal noise amount, so whenever you kill enemies, there is a decent chance that the long range aggro will detect the kill, and an enemy from like 10, 15, 20 feet away will wake up to the noise of his friend getting killed. that is something to consider. When it comes to scouts, you have to hit them in the head. It doesn't matter if it's from the front or the back, as long as you hit them in the head. When it comes to chargers, you have to hit them in the back. For the regular small guys, you can aim for the head, you can aim for the back. Remember that shooters always have a little bit more health than the regular strikers do. So with those, you kind of want to aim for the head. With the regular strikers, you can just hit them in the back. And when it comes to taking down big enemies, you definitely have to coordinate a team stagger with your friends where you'll hit him and then the other guy will hit him right afterwards. Aim for the limbs, so whenever you break off a limb, it will stagger the giant and then he can't call for help. So, you know, you hit him in the head, his friend hits him in the arm, you hit him in the leg until the giant dies. Or if you can do a coordinated simultaneous hit with your friends, that usually works really well. Usually 3 hits will kill the giant. Doesn't matter where the hell you hit him as long as it's in the back. When it comes to the big chargers, you require 4 hits with friends. So all 4 friends with hammers hitting them in the back in a coordinated attack that's synchronized will drop a big charger. It is a very, very highly effective tool. You can't go wrong with it. Like I said, it is the most commonly seen and used weapon in the entire game. It gets the job done and is the most well-rounded. You can run with it, you can charge and run with it. It has the perfect blend of mobility with damage, and that's what makes it a top tier weapon. Now, the only downside with the hammer is that whenever you are swinging it, it does consume stamina. So during periods of alarms or extended fights, the more you swing it, the higher the heart rate's going to go, and you're going to see yourself running out of stamina or getting low. So it's something to keep track of, to not run around too much while swinging if you can help it. Sometimes you got to slow down, take a small break, let it go back down before going back up again. You'll know what I'm talking about, especially if you see your health bar start flashing yellow. So it is not an infinite stamina tool, unlike the knife. And the other disadvantage compared to something like the spear is that the range on it is not huge. So while with the spear you can essentially kill enemies from like 10 feet away and solo giants without fear of getting smacked in the face, doing the same with the hammer is a little bit trickier to do, because when you try to solo a giant, what you'll want to do is you kind of have to bait the swing and make sure that you don't get hit by it, because it will drop 40% of your life. So you have to kind of bait that swing and then go in afterwards and try to break his arm, and then do it again and again and again until you finally get the kill. So to recap, hammer can pretty much kill everything in the game. Most enemies die in 1 hit, or the small ones. You can kill giants with the syringe, you can kill hybrids with the syringe in 1 hit, you can kill charger scouts with the syringe in 1 hit, you can kill big chargers with the synchronized attack of 4 hammers, and you can stagger all the big enemies, including hybrids and big shooters, without waking up the room if you combo your attacks with a friend to allow for that stagger moment so that it doesn't call for help. If you want to see what the stagger system looks like, this is a really good example right here. So you coordinate with your friend. The way I like to do it is I basically tell them, hey, I'm going to hit him in the head and it's going to move him forward. If you want to get in front of him and take out his knee, and then we'll finish him up afterwards. So you basically align yourself position wise. Then the guy who's behind him will usually jump and hit him in the head. They both charge at the same time. There's the head hit, there's the knee hit, then there's the back hit, and then there's the drop. And that's usually how it works, and that's pretty much how it works. And as long as you alternate it like that and you don't attack at the exact same time, it works 90% of the time, and it will not wake up anybody else in the room. And that is the important part that will help your team be able to move through the level successfully. So let's talk about the spear. Spear is, in my opinion, an underrated weapon. It doesn't have the mobility that the hammer has, so you can't sprint around with the weapon fully charged up. You can sprint and poke with it though, which are basically just light attacks. However, the one thing it is unprecedented at, it has fantastic amount of range, and you can essentially do a lot with it from range if you have someone with you backing you up with a faster weapon. During error alarms where you get the 2 or 3 enemies at a time, the guy with the spear can basically pick off a lot of enemies as they get close before they can even attack, and whatever friend you're with can back you up and kill whatever you don't kill. You can solo giants with this weapon. It does a fantastic amount of damage. You can kill chargers with one back hit. You can kill scouts extremely easily because of the range. As long as you hit it in the head, it doesn't matter if it's from the front or the back. You can kill charger scouts with a syringe. You can drop giants with a syringe very, very easily. You don't even have to jump for it. That's another thing that this weapon does fall short on. You cannot do jump attacks with it. It doesn't work. So everything is from a standing perspective, but because you have so much extra range, you don't need to jump. You can simply just stand up behind them and then hit them in the back of the head very easily. You can stagger giants as well with it. Even though it is a kind of slow charge up time, it doesn't matter. The stagger principle still stays the same. You can occiput hybrids a lot easier with the spear than you can with the hammer because you don't have to get as close. You can essentially just get somewhere behind them, pop the syringe, and then hit them in the occiput while they're stretching. It's very easy to do. It is a very underrated weapon. I wish I could see a little bit more of people using the spear. I understand that it's not a very fast weapon, and I understand that you can't run with it and stuff like that, but if you have a decent coordinated team with, other people that can help back you up, I think it is a very useful weapon to have. I remember when I started, we had difficulty in Rundown 6 DX inside the room with like 1,000 million scouts and giants, all in the same room. And if it wasn't for the spear, clearing out that room would have been a whole different experience. You can also sometimes hit enemies that are below you, like if you're standing on like an elevated platform, very easily. Like I said, this weapon is really, really underrated. It does have a very good niche. And its only downfall is that it's just slow and it doesn't have the same amount of mobility that the other weapons do have. But it is definitely a fantastic weapon to gain experience with and train with, allowing you to get comfortable with the stealth mechanics and the movement of the game, and killing things that you normally wouldn't be able to kill as easily. So don't restrict yourself. If you want to use the spear, use the spear. Don't let other people tell you what to do or how to have fun in your game. It is a very viable weapon. It just plays a little different than other weapons, and if you If you're playing with people who have a problem with that, then maybe you need to find a different group or friends or people to play with, or work something out with them, some sort of coordination. Because at the end of the day, this is a team-based game, so your team needs to back you up in every way possible. And if that's what you want to use, then that's what you want to use, and that's what you use. So to summarize the spear, it's a slow weapon, but it has fantastic amount of range. You don't have the mobility that you have with like the hammer or the knife, so you can't run around with a charged up weapon. You can't do charging jump attacks with like you can with the knife and hammer. But the one thing you can do that you can't do with the knife and hammer is solo big enemies a lot easier without getting punched in the face. It doesn't even matter if the room wakes up, you can solo them anyways. It will, each charged up hit will stagger them, and you are usually out of enemy range, so they can't really punch you back. It is a pretty fun weapon to use, and it definitely has its niche and team utility. So it is a really fun weapon to use. To show you a couple of examples of what using a yellow syringe on looks like when dealing with the big enemies or even the charger scouts, is you basically just inject it and bop them in the head without even like hesitation, and they're gone. And like I said, with charger scouts, the important thing to do is to pop your syringe and just hit them in the back. Doesn't matter where, as long as it's in the back, you will basically take them out without a problem, and from a really good range. So before, you know, like pretty much almost at the range of you entering the noodles. It's pretty cool to see, and definitely satisfying. So for our final weapon, we have the bat. The redeeming factor of the bat is that it can break open padlocks in a simple click. You don't have to charge it up. The main advantage of the bat is usually in levels where you drop in, there's an immediate error alarm, and you have to just run for your life and scavenge resources along the way. In those levels, the bat's pretty much its niche. It is the most niche weapon for those type of levels. Other than that, it's better to just bring a hammer or a knife or a spear. You'll get a little bit more team utility out of it. But let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite weapon to use. Let me know if this video helped you change your mind on any other particular weapons that you thought weren't as useful. Let me know if any of this information has helped you do some stuff in the game that you haven't been able to do before. And don't forget to hit the like button. It does help. And if you're new to the channel, welcome on in, and to hit the subscribe button so that way you get notifications whenever a new video comes out. It's definitely fun making this video for you guys. I do really like this game, and I like to be able to provide information for new players who aren't aware of all the things that they can do in the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.